This is a podcast where I talk about Gen Z versus Millennials. So today's episode is going to, of course, be about Gen Z versus Millennials, and kind of what's going on with what the two generations, really. I don't know how else to really explain it. So let's just kind of go over a brief little synopsis, or not really a synopsis. Let's go over kind of what's happening. So Millennials and Gen Z are fighting on TikTok, and by fighting I really mean one is making cringy TikToks and the other is making fun of them. We'll kind of get into what's exactly going on in a second. I just kind of wanted to introduce what the topic is for today, but this is going to be a little bit of a weird one because I kind of wrote it out into parts and we're just going to go through it one by one, and I'll kind of make the points that I need to make. I will say that Eddie Burback, it was funny because he actually released a video about Gen Z versus Millennials the same day that I released the poll for this episode, which happened to have Gen Z, and it was up against, I think, people watching or something like that. And Gen Z, of course, won. Of course, I think it's because of everything going on. Everyone kind of knows about the whole battle, I guess, if you want to call it. But Eddie Burback made some really good points, and none of the stuff in here is against him at all. I actually agree with a lot of the stuff he said, but I'm going to get a little more in depth into it. Not really in depth into it, but I just want to create more drama because that's always fun. Eddie does a really good job of not making it very dramatic or anything like that, and kind of just playing both sides so that way always ends up on top. And I'm of course joking. Of course, I love Eddie Burback. He is great. He's so good and funny, but he kind of does a good job of like explaining both sides and how they're both kind of in the wrong here. But I'm going to explain it from my point of view as well. So a lot of this is going to be from what I've seen, and a lot of it's going to be the TikToks that I've seen. Some of the TikToks that he talks about I'd never seen before. So I'm just going to go off of what I've seen, because that's the cool thing about point of views is that I don't have to agree with you, or I can just go off of what I've seen and not actually explore their horizons and see the other points of view. So we're going to go off of that. So let's get into it. All right, so first of all, let's talk about why it started, why all of this started. We aren't really sure what started it, the whole thing, or at least I'm not very sure what started the whole thing. There was an article or something, I believe, that told millennials that side parts and skinny jeans, I guess, weren't really that cool anymore. That's at least my understanding. I'm not 100% sure, again, about that part. I just kind of know what's going on currently. Either way, the millennials took offense to that, and one brave millennial made a TikTok song about it. Let's just say that Gen Z didn't really like it that much. Not because they were offended, but because they thought it was really kind of just cringy. And it is kind of cringy in a way. The weird part to me is like the song is supposed to be telling them, hey, Gen Z, you can suck it. I don't care what you say. I'll see if I can find a clip and put it in here as well so you can kind of hear it or whatever, get a better understanding.
Hey, Gen Z, you can suck it. You can't tell me what to wear, 'cause I've been rocking this side part since you had Kermit on your underwear. So cute. And you can pry these skinny jeans from my cold dead ass, you hear? So Gen Z, you can suck it. You can't tell me what to wear. Oh, you guys look grumpy. You should take a nap.
But it's basically saying, Gen Z, you can suck it. Don't tell me what to wear, blah, 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 that kind of shit. And my kind of problem or issue with it isn't the fact that she made the song. It's more of like, why would you make this song? The whole song is supposed to basically be telling Gen Z, you can suck it. I don't care what you say. But then you're making a song about Gen Z, which kind of makes me think that you care what they say. Either way, it's just kind of dumb and kind of pointless in my opinion. Why you would make this song at all. It doesn't matter, but that's kind of beside the point. So let's continue on, at least with the story arc that we have here. So then Gen Z decides to clap back. Now they aren't really making responses per se, at least from what I've seen. Again, I'm kind of basing it off of what I've seen. There are some that are trying to make arguments and whatnot, but I really don't want to talk about those people because they're kind of dumb too. And by the way, I do want to explain, I forgot to explain this in the beginning. When I'm talking about millennials, I'm not talking about all millennials. I'm talking about older millennials. I'm talking about Gen Z. I'm talking about the younger Gen Z, like the teenagers. Honestly, there's like a weird in between that I think a lot of people my age who were born in like kind of like the beginning of the Gen Z or the end of millennials that are kind of just in the middle and they feel kind of indifferent to either generation. But I kind of feel like I'm kind of in that area as well. I will kind of talk about that a little bit later, but the whole entire idea, and whenever I say like millennials, I really mean like the older millennials, and whenever I say Gen Z, I'm really talking about the teenagers. Just kind of want to let you guys know that, so you kind of know what I mean. If I do mean like a specific age group of millennials, then I will say younger millennials or older, you know what I mean, like if I really want to emphasize it. But for now, if I'm saying millennials, older millennials, Gen Z, younger Gen Z, like teenagers. So a lot of the Gen Z, not even a lot, some of the Gen Z are kind of getting offended or like clapping back with like these weird arguments that make no sense. But a lot of the older millennials, or the regular millennials, I guess if I want to say, they're the ones kind of getting offended. So let me continue on where I was. Do forgive me here. So like I was saying, Gen Z clapped back, and they weren't really making responses to the exact song necessarily, but there are some that are trying to make arguments, and again, we're not going to be talking about those ones. And if you really want to know about those, you can watch Eddie's video on this, Eddie Burback's video, because he kind of talks about that as well, about these ones that are making those stupid arguments. But for the most part, for most of the responses that I've seen have been like satirical, or they're really like making fun of the song itself. Like being like just saying, oh, it's cringy, blah blah blah, that kind of stuff. The sad part is that even younger millennials were kind of making fun of the whole song and everything too, which is kind of sad and doesn't help your case at all, especially if the people in your generation are also kind of siding against you. You're probably not doing something good there. You're probably making them feel kind of either embarrassed or just kind of nauseous, whatever you want to call it. But I'm going to be honest here, because it was kind of starting to die down a little bit. And then the next thing kind of happened. And this is when millennials kind of poured gas on the fire here and made it even worse. Gen Z, you said Gen Z is trying to cancel Eminem. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I'm going to try to show the video as well for this. Apparently, and I didn't get the memo because technically I'm Gen Z. I wasn't in the conference, I guess. I didn't get the memo that apparently we were canceling Eminem.
What? Gen Z's trying to what? Cancel Eminem. Gen Z's trying to cancel Eminem? Honey, that's cute. Listen, little kitties, let me make this quite clear. This man was around even before you were here. So what, you're all mad because the man was a lyricist while all your rappers are mumbling gibberish? No, go ahead and shut your mouth. Better yet, go and sit your ass in time out, because boy was running laps even before you could walk. Hell, boy was spitting bars even before you could talk. So no, afraid you're null and void, dear. I'm afraid your opinion don't matter here, because one day you'll grow up and see how everyone went and forgot about Z.
And so at this point, at least in my opinion, Gen Z has already won the metaphorical battle. If you want to call it the metaphorical battle that is the Gen Z versus millennials, they've already won it, because all that millennials are doing is pouring gas on the fire and just making it even worse for themselves, not even for Gen Z. And if you see the video, and hopefully you'll be able to watch it on YouTube, if not, I'll try to get the audio at least so you can listen to it. It's so cringy and sad that it's honestly kind of messed up because of how sad it is. Making this fake rap, and when I talk about like those satirical videos, I see so many of those now, especially about the rap one. The song one, I saw a lot of like ironic, like cringy, whatever, just making fun of the song. But this one, like, people are parodying it. They're being like, oh, Gen Z's trying to cancel bare naked ladies. It's been 1 week since you looked at that kind of shit.
Generation Z wants to cancel Eminem. Generation Z wants to cancel Eminem. Yeah. Listen up, Generation Z. You're a generation of Z. Z. Generation of Z.
Gen Z's trying to do what? Gen Z's trying to do what? They're trying to cancel 50 Cent? Yeah, good luck. Not on Millennials Watch. We were listening to 50 Cent when you were still in diapers. Millennials aren't gonna let you cancel 50 Cent. You were in diapers.
Gen Z is what? Gen Z is trying to cancel Robert Cade, the inventor of Gatorade. Listen, all Gatorades, you better not do that because Gatorade's actually really good. And don't do it because I don't want you to.
That's what I'm seeing a lot of now, making fun of this one girl who did this. And I think what's worse is that I've seen other iterations who are like trying to say the same shit, and they're doing the same stuff, but they're like trying to rap and stuff. It's like, I don't even know how to explain it. It's so sad and cringy that to me, that's why Gen Z is kind of winning the battle here. But enough about what's going on the surface. Let's talk about the next little part that we have here. Now, I'm sure some of you know, when you have a war or any kind of, actually, I guess any great American war, there's sometimes multiple battles going on. Now, we always see the battle on the surface, of course, though that's the one that's happening with the TikToks, the people that are making these cringy ass TikToks, and the Gen Z that's making fun of them. Then yes, we see that one, but there's also a hidden battle that's going on in the comment section. If you go on to like any sort of comedian, like an old clip of a comedian, any sort of like an old clip from like an old comedy movie or something like that from like the 90s, and I say old, but again, it's like from the 90s, and you'll see some dumbass millennial being like, oh, this wouldn't fly in today's generation. Gen Z is too soft, they wouldn't like this, saying something along the lines of that. And that's the stupidest argument I've ever heard. I guess, sorry, my bad. That's the dumbest argument I've ever heard. I don't understand that argument, why Gen Z would not like that, considering the fact that Gen Z, for instance, I saw a clip from Major Payne. And if you don't know Major Payne, then you're probably a little too young. But even I'm Gen Z and I know Major Payne. I used to watch that before. And there's a clip when he's yelling at this deaf kid, and he doesn't know he's deaf. And he literally yells, "Are you deaf?" And the other kid goes, "Actually, sir, he is deaf." And so he does like fake sign language or everything. Like, if you don't like basically respond to me in the future, I'm gonna stick my boot up your ass, pretty much. And it was definitely comedy from the 90s, and again, as a kid, that's hilarious. And I really don't see the issue with it, especially again, it's a product of the time. But apparently, I guess us Gen Z were supposed to be offended by that, which I don't get. And again, you see a lot of these millennials being like that, and all Gen Z goes like, I grew up watching this movie too. I don't know what you're talking about. Like, they think that they're the only ones who saw the movie or something like that. And you see it for like a bunch of different ones, even movies that are pretty recent. Like there's The Dictator, and there's millennials being like, Gen Z would cancel this if it was. I'm like, what are you talking about? Gen Z watched that shit too. Like, I have no idea what you guys think Gen Z is. Gen Z is between 1997 and I think 2015. So like, what Gen Z are you talking about? You probably were born like 1995. You're like 2 years older than me, or 2 years, not me, but like 2 years older than someone who's a millennial or Gen Z. Like, they probably grew up with the same shit. That's why it's like, I don't get that argument. So now that we've kind of gone over the secret battle there, let's talk about why it was a mistake to pick on Gen Z. So Gen Z, in my opinion, is the wrong generation to go after. Why do you care what kids think? That's the main reason. Why the fuck would you care what a 15-year-old thinks about how you dress or what you wear or what you do with your life? I don't give a shit. I mean, I'm not 15, but I don't give a shit. And B, Gen Z is like the definition of like, you can't hate me more than I hate myself. Because we're so, I mean, at least the majority of the Gen Z that I know are very like, we just don't give a fuck. Like, we don't care. And it's not because we don't care about what's going on in the world. We just don't care about what other people think about us. Most of Gen Z that I know, again, like I said, can give two shits about what the older millennials have to say. The only reason like that Gen Z really responds or says anything isn't even because of the fact that they're offended or that they're upset. They really only respond because it's cringe. You can't post cringe like that unironically and not expect Gen Z to make fun of you for it. It just doesn't make any sense. If you want to really make fun of them or tell them to fuck off, they're just going to say, okay, then stop talking to me. Because we don't care. Like, we genuinely don't care. And if you make fun of us, or you make fun of the Gen Z people, even the younger millennials, they're probably just going to say, yeah, you know what, we deserve it. Okay. And then just keep going on with their lives because we don't give a shit. And that's why it's a horrible idea. I don't know why they decided to go after Gen Z. It just doesn't make any sense to me that way. Because we have this, like, I don't care attitude, it upsets the millennials. Because they can't accept the fact that we don't care. This essentially creates an endless cycle of millennials saying they don't care what Gen Z thinks, and then Gen Z just making fun of the fact that they don't really care. Basically, Gen Z just making fun of them because we don't really care at all. Essentially. And so it just creates this endless cycle. So you're still going to keep seeing these older millennials making these cringy ass raps or these songs and stuff trying to piss off Gen Z, which Gen Z is going to say, okay, haha, and they're just going to make fun of them. And then that's going to piss the millennials off even more. So they're just going to keep making this content saying that they don't care about what Gen Z thinks, even though they clearly do because they keep making the fucking songs. But that's beside the point. Either way, it's kind of in a weird way Gen Z's fault. It's our lack of giving a shit that's really causing this to be blown out of proportion. And also our lack of, not even our lack, our ability to sniff out cringe very, very fast and effectively make fun of it very, very quickly. Because pretty much as soon as she posted that, even like the Eminem girl or the other girl, I'm pretty sure she was already getting like made fun of immediately. And you can call it bullying, but like, you're a fucking adult. You asked for it. Like, you know what I mean? It's not like we went out of our way to make fun of you. You brought it onto yourself. You were literally asking to be made fun of, and this is what happens. And I'm sure they're going to pretend, oh, I don't really care, but then they're still going to keep responding because they clearly do care. When I was talking about why the millennials, or at least why I think the millennials are acting this way, now, this is really all speculation on my part, and I'm just kind of saying what I believe is the reason why they're kind of being dumbasses right now. Because at the end of the day, times change, trends change, and I know it's kind of messed up, but, you know, this whole skinny jean side part thing, yes, that's just out of style. And sadly, a lot of the older millennials still wear it. I don't know why I said sadly, because I really don't give a shit if they do. But they just happen to be wearing that kind of stuff, and them getting this information that their things are out of style or out of trend pisses them off, and it annoys them because then they think they're not cool anymore. Yeah, that happens to every generation. Our parents felt the same way at some point. You know, there's always something that at some point you're not cool, you're not hip, you're not whatever the term is for that generation is. You're not going to be that like that the whole time. And so I think this is just the millennials starting to feel like they're not cool anymore and they can't hang out with us, which we never said that they couldn't. They're just taking it that way, even though more than likely none of us give a shit. I can guarantee that there's no Gen Z out there that's going to be like, you're really wearing skinny jeans right now? That's so fucking gross. What are you, a millennial? I'm pretty sure that's never going to happen. So the fact that they're so worried about, like, I guess, being called uncool is a problem. I will say that if you really are worried that you're not cool, you going around pretending like you're actually cooler than what we say you are isn't going to help your situation. All you got to do is just embrace who you are and act like a pretty chill person, and people, especially the younger generation, doesn't care what you dress like or look like. As long as you're a nice person, who gives a shit? But the fact that that like these people are so offended by the fact that like their way of life or whatever they thought was cool isn't as cool anymore, they think that it's all of a sudden our fault. That's just how things work. Why are you coming after the younger generation when we didn't do shit? It doesn't make any sense to me at all, but that's beside the point. Also, you have to remember that this Gen Z is going to feel the same exact way in a matter of 20 years, probably. We're going to feel like we're not cool anymore. But what's important is that as long as we don't go around being like, well, we actually are cool, we should be fine. It's not that hard. So yeah, basically, I mean, the main takeaway from all this is that it's gonna happen. You're not gonna be cool. You're not gonna be the trending generation at some point, and you gotta understand that these older millennials, and you know what my other problem with this whole thing is that these millennials, and again, when I'm talking about the older one, they'll be like, well, Gen Z is ruining everything. But even though they're talking about just younger millennials that are actually in their generation, they'll just group them with the rest of Gen Z because they don't want to be racist or something like that. Like, I don't understand that either. They think anyone who wants to, I don't know, fucking not wear skinny jeans or say something about a side part is automatically Gen Z. Who knows? The person who wrote that article could have just been a fucking millennial who was just saying, hey, by the way, these trends are going out of style. They're not the in thing anymore. But they just all of a sudden are like, well, Gen Z's ruining everything. This whole like cancel Eminem thing. First of all, I don't even know about this, but how do you know that there's not millennials that want to cancel Eminem? Again, I don't know why, but how do you know that's not what's happening either? The fact that like anything that's negative or whatever, you have to blame the younger generation, that's a trend that happens anywhere. In all generations it happens. And we were kind of hoping that maybe the millennials would kind of break that cycle, but apparently they're not. So it's up to us Gen Z to break that cycle. Stop blaming the younger generations for things that they don't do or control. Just because something's changing doesn't mean that it's automatically our fault. There's people that are also in your generation that are wanting to make changes. There's people that are in the older generations that are actually doing a lot of the actual changes that we should be worried about. But we don't want to talk about that. You just want to blame someone else for your fucking problems. That's beside the point. I didn't want to go into that, but I just felt that I had to go there because I needed to say that at some point because it's fucking annoying. So at the end of the day, if you really want to be cool, if you want Gen Z to stop, I don't even know what to say, they're not even antagonizing you, just being a fucking bitch. If you want things to change or you want to be cool, just stop caring. And don't be one of those people that says, I don't care, and make a fucking song that says you don't care, because that just means you care. Just don't give a shit. If you see an article that says side parts and skinny jeans are out of style, don't get offended by that. Just be like, okay, well, that's not going to stop me. I don't care. Just stop giving a fuck. What matters is that you make the necessary changes in your life for the future, so that way your kids will be able to actually live in a country that's going to be great, and all this kind of bullshit, whatever you want to call it. That's what matters. Who cares what you wear? I'm not going to go around, like I said, I'm not going to go around and be like, oh, you're wearing skinny jeans? You're really fucking millennial? That's fucking gross. You know those died 20 years ago? No, because I don't care. I dress like a hobo most of the time. Who cares what you dress like? Who cares what's in or out? Just be you. And don't go around trying to blame other fucking generations. And what I mean other generations, I mean the younger generations. Don't go around blaming the younger generations just because things are changing. Some of those changes are probably for the better, if we're going to be honest. Long story short, millennials just need to grow a fucking pair and get over themselves. They're just not cool anymore. That's the fact. Other than that, that's going to be it for this episode. I know it's kind of a mean thing to say, but it's true. Just stop being so worried about what little kids think about you. Like, who cares? I mean, little kids judge me all the time. I don't care. I mean, I just go punch them in the face, and that'll bond them, teach them a lesson right there. They won't make fun of me anymore. But I digress. I think that's going to do it for this episode. It was kind of weird, a little bit of a weird topic to talk about. I kind of went on a bit of a rant there because I felt like it had to go there at that point. But that's really going to do it. So it's kind of a shorter episode this week, which isn't always a bad thing. That's going to do it. Of course, like I said, you can submit your ideas to this_is_a_podcast or at b_skills247 on Instagram. Both of my Instagrams there. Submit your ideas for what you want to see in the polls. And then also you can submit ideas at Twitter at Brian Skilling. You'll also be able to vote on all of those platforms and also give me your song suggestions. In fact, this week we're listening to a suggestion. So we're going to listen to Frankenstein by Tokyo Police Club this week. Y'all have a wonderful week. Give me your suggestions. If any millennials listen to this and you're part of the younger millennial group, just know that this isn't at you. This is at the older ones that are being kind of bitches right now. And if you're part of the older Gen Z group, this is also not at you, because we're really talking about the teenagers. So don't take offense to it. But this is going to be the end of it. Like I said, this is going to be Frankenstein by Tokyo Police Club.